think about that. After artificial intelligence is achieved, machines will be making all the inventions for us because they think faster than us. That's a quote from Swedish philosopher Nick Bostrom. But in order to understand it, you need to consider what exactly he means by artificial intelligence. It's not the IBM Watson that you hear about in commercials. That's just a product line to advertise. What he's specifically talking about is what's called the singularity. If you don't know what the singularity is, it's a hypothetical point where the level of machine intelligence triggers runaway growth, resulting in changes we can't even think about when it comes to civilization. And the way that most often this point is described is when machines become self-aware. That question is hard to answer when that happens. But the whole idea of the singularity led me to research what's currently happening in artificial intelligence and where we are today in order to better understand how far away we are from singularity. And across my research, I found 3 examples that I would like to share with you today: bioinformatics, emotional detection, and voice forensics. They sound pretty complicated, but they're not. Bioinformatics is the science of collecting data when it comes to your health and your body. The most basic example of this is uncoding the genetic genome. This is a really complicated process. It's almost complete, but in order to do it on an individual level, person to person, machines are going to have involvement in this. And what artificial intelligence can do is take a specific part of your genome that is mapped and find patterns in it in order to map it somewhere else in the genome. And with this, there's all kinds of applications. You can find people that are more at risk of certain diseases, heart disease, Alzheimer's, high cholesterol, all sorts of risks involved with health are shown in your genetic genome. Another part of this that you can do is the gene expression. Gene expression with the uncoding of genetic genome can be used to find tumors on a molecular level. And when you find tumors on a molecular level, everyone knows the earlier you find cancer, the better. And in order to find it on a molecular level, that's way before any person would be able to realize that they have a tumor by seeing it or feeling it. This kind of artificial intelligence can change how we treat cancer and how we treat multiple diseases. If we know that you're going to have a heart attack in your life, that completely changes the whole trajectory of having a heart attack. When you know it's coming, you can treat it. The next example of artificial intelligence is emotional detection. AI is now capable of learning to interpret human emotion. But the thing is, it can interpret emotion better than we can.
Wow.
When you scan someone's face and you look at them trying to figure out what they think, how they feel, there's so many little triggers that you recognize, except a computer can recognize even smaller triggers. There's an enormous amount of potential here. This is prevalent in multiple different forms today. The first one's advertising. If companies can figure out how you view their advertisements, their products, they can completely change how they advertise to you. The second is physical health. Researchers at MIT are developing a wearable device that monitors a person's heartbeat and tells them whether they're experiencing stress, anxiety, or even having a heart attack. So most people don't know when they have a heart attack. If you're wearing a device that tells you as soon as you're having a heart attack and alerts 911, calls a 911 for you, that's one step in the game. Another example of this is an app that Companion MX develops that lets you listen to your voice and analyzes it for signs of mood change and anxiety. just based on your voice. This example of using your voice to connect it towards your health is essentially what voice forensics is. Your voice is like your fingerprint. Everyone has a specific voice print that you can use to identify yourself. So imagine unlocking your iPhone using your voice. That's essentially what Rita Singh, a professor at Carnegie Mellon University, is working on. She says from the voice you can tell what the skeletal structure of a person is like. Her, with a couple other researchers, are working on, they actually did this last year at some convention, where they have technology that you put a virtual reality headset on, and you speak into it, and in real time it creates a three-dimensional diagram, I guess, of your face. It creates your face in real time, just based on your voice. The implications of that are kind of scary, but there's also a lot of potential there. For example, the US Coast Guard has actually partnered with her to develop technology to identify prank callers, because prank callers can cost the Coast Guard between $10,000 and $250,000 for every rescue mission that they send out. And they receive over 200 false distress calls a year.
Wow.
They also has an implication with this with healthcare. The primary focus is to diagnose signs of early diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. That's also another thing that Rita Singh, the professor, is working on, because there's early signs, especially with those diseases, in your voice. You start to lose memory, you start to fumble your words quick, and oftentimes we don't realize it or we overlook it. Whereas the artificial intelligence, tracking what you say and noticing the changes, can find those things before they come. Overall, bioinformatics, emotional detection, and voice forensics are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the impacts artificial intelligence has on us today. But just looking at those, it's quite clear that it's really far away from what's called a singularity. These machines aren't thinking on their own, they're just relaying what they've been told to relay. But if the singularity ever happens, the growth with these areas, you can't even project. Artificial intelligence has the opportunity to change civilization as we know it. Thank you.